Little Jack Horner is, without exaggeration, one of the most Machiavellian characters to ever appear in the Shrek universe, specifically in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And what's even more impressive is that he almost completely rewrote the magical balance of that world. His wish was straightforward and deeply dangerous: to possess all the magic of the fairy tale world for himself. No sharing power, no coexistence between magical creatures. He wanted to concentrate absolutely everything in his own hands. That wish had been granted, the world of Puss in Boots would have stopped being a shared enchanted universe and would have become territory ruled by a single force. To understand the weight of that, we need to go back to the origin of the name Little Jack Horner. Unlike classic characters who emerged from complex novels or vast mythologies, Little Jack Horner was born from a simple English nursery rhyme, just a short verse repeated for generations. Little Jack Horner sat in the corner, eating his Christmas pie. He stuck in his thumb and pulled out a plum and said, "What a good boy am I." And that's it. It ends there. There's no continuation, no heroic journey, no developed conflict, but that simplicity carries more than it seems. The earliest records of the rhyme date back to the 18th century, and there are interpretations suggesting it may have been a political satire. Pie could symbolize wealth or privilege, while the plum represents the best part of that abundance. Jack sticks in his thumb, takes what he wants, and then congratulates himself for it. The image isn't just childish. It suggests someone who takes advantage of privilege and believes that makes him special. When we look at the version presented in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, that reading becomes even stronger. The film's Little Jack Horner isn't just greedy. He's controlling, obsessive, and completely incapable of sharing. He doesn't want to coexist with magic. He wants to monopolize it. He believes he deserves to be the only extraordinary being in a universe where the extraordinary has always been shared. The movie takes the implicit essence of the rhyme and turns it into an antagonist with clear motivations: accumulate power, centralize influence, and eliminate any balance that isn't under his control. Visually exaggerated, almost cartoonishly over the top, he still carries a coherent internal logic. He behaves like someone who has always had access to everything and never had to deal with real limits. Some historical interpretations of the rhyme reinforce this even further. In popular versions, Jack is said to be the son of an extremely wealthy baker, someone surrounded by privilege from birth. That association with excess and abundance makes the act of taking the best piece of the pie even more symbolic. Not out of necessity, but out of pure entitlement. Now imagine that psychological profile with absolute access to all the magic in the fairy tale world. If Little Jack Horner had succeeded in making that wish, the impact would have been structural. Fairies, enchanted creatures, magical objects, even mystical forces would cease to exist as independent elements. Magic would stop circulating throughout the world. It would have an owner, and that owner has already shown he has no interest in balance or responsibility. The world of Puss in Boots wouldn't just be dominated, it would be emptied. Without distributed magic, there are no parallel stories, no individual journeys, no equivalent forces sustaining conflict or growth. There would only be concentration of power, and that ambition is exactly what makes Little Jack Horner one of the most dangerous antagonists in the franchise. He doesn't want a specific throne. He doesn't just want to defeat the hero. He wants to turn everything extraordinary into private property. If he had succeeded, the enchanted world would have stopped being a universe of possibilities and would have become a closed system, controlled by someone who has never shown the ability to deal with limits. With all that in mind, Little Jack Horner is practically the living embodiment of the criticism hidden inside the nursery rhyme. In Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, he clearly states that he inherited the family plum pie factory. In other words, he was born surrounded by privilege. He didn't build an empire from scratch. He didn't earn his place through struggle. He simply received it. That explains a lot about his attitude. Jack makes it clear that he was a spoiled child, raised in an environment where he never had to share, negotiate, or give anything up. The factory isn't just a random detail. It reinforces the idea of inheritance, abundance, and a comfortable position from the very beginning. His henchmen are literally the bakers from the factory. Please. People working to maintain his family's legacy. And what stands out is the atmosphere around them. There's no real loyalty, only fear. They are visibly intimidated by Jack's presence. There is no earned respect, only imposed authority. And the most revealing part is how he treats them. When his henchmen die, he shows no remorse. He doesn't try to save them. He doesn't react. To him, they are replaceable pieces that already serves as a direct reflection of how he would rule the world if he had obtained all the magic. If he discards the very people who serve him without hesitation, imagine the fate of everyone else. And when we say world, we mean it literally. Jack's wish was to possess all the magic in the fairy tale world. If that had happened, he would have become practically invincible. Fairies, witches, enchanted creatures, legendary heroes, all of them would lose their abilities. Magic would stop existing as a shared force and would become the absolute monopoly of a single individual. That wouldn't just be imbalance, it would be collapse. The wishing star grants only one wish. We don't know exactly what would happen after it was fulfilled, whether the setting would crumble like it almost did in the film, or if magic would simply stabilize under a new owner. But assuming the wish was completed and the star ceased to exist, how could anyone undo it? There would be no second chance, no backup star to reverse it. The only option would be waiting for some unlikely miracle. In that moment, Jack would have enough power to eliminate any immediate threat. Puss in Boots, Goldilocks. Anyone standing there could be defeated before they even had time to react. He would have total control of the situation. With that much power concentrated in one place, it's hard to imagine any outcome other than the rise of an authoritarian empire. Jack shows clear signs of sadism. He takes pleasure in humiliating others, showing off, asserting superiority. In some ways, he seems even crueler than Lord Farquaad because he's not just after status. He wants absolute control. There's also an element of envy. Within the fairy tale universe, Jack was always a secondary figure. He wasn't a legendary hero or a feared icon. While other characters had epic stories, he came from a short nursery rhyme. That feeling of being forgotten may fuel his desire to centralize all magic. He wasn't the main character by default, he would force the world to revolve around him. It's easy to imagine him declaring himself king. Everyone would serve, not out of respect, but obligation. Those would be dark times for that universe. Of course, you can imagine resistance, magical creatures and characters from across the Shrek universe uniting against him. But then comes the real question. How do you defeat someone who holds all existing magic? The wish truly meant absorbing all magical energy in the world. Then witches, sorcerers, and enchanted beings would be left powerless. Jack could cast spells like Merlin, brew potions like the fairy godmother, make magical contracts like Rumpelstiltskin. He would have access to every known ability in that universe. And that raises another interesting possibility. Rumpelstiltskin himself. Even if Jack gained the ability to make magical deals, Rumpelstiltskin's contracts depend on exchange. He doesn't act alone. He manipulates, demands payment, exploits loopholes. Jack sought him out in pursuit of even more power. He could fall into a trap. Rumpelstiltskin is cunning and always plays for personal advantage. One poorly structured deal could open the door to betrayal, and eventually Jack's downfall. On the other hand, there's the possibility that not even Rumpelstiltskin would have enough magic left to act. Jack's wish truly meant absorbing all existing magic. That would include stripping magical creatures of their power. In that scenario, no one would have the tools to oppose him. Not heroes, not villains. It would be a reign of widespread fear. Even legendary figures would become powerless. Even former antagonists would lose relevance. Still, there's one crucial detail. Jack never mentions immortality. He wants all the magic, but he never specifies being immortal. That means that, despite being overwhelmingly powerful, he would still be mortal. And that's where an inevitable figure comes in. The wolf, death itself, as portrayed in Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. In Puss's case, the pursuit was personal, tied to his 9 lives and his disregard for death. There's no clear indication that death had a specific interest in Jack. But if, for any reason, that encounter happened, the logic is simple. No one defeats death. Even with all the magic in the world, Jack would still be subject to an end. Power does not equal eternity. If that confrontation occurred, it wouldn't be a balanced fight. The magic can manipulate reality, but it doesn't necessarily overcome what is inevitable. In the end, the most likely scenario would be a period of absolute domination followed by an inevitable fall, whether through betrayal, a loophole in a deal, or simply because too much concentrated power always leads to conflict. But until that fall came, the Shrek universe would be living under one of the most oppressive regimes that Enchanted World had ever seen. If you enjoyed the theory, make sure to leave a like to support the channel, and click the video on the end screen. The next breakdown keeps this same level of depth. See you there.